We are fortunate this weekend to have this gospel as we have this commitment Sunday here at St. Joseph. We experienced this healing, the perseverance of Bartimaeus, stopping and calling out to Jesus. And the way that Bartimaeus didn't worry about what other people around him were doing or saying, but he knew that his relationship with Jesus would be what is important. I also think it's really a privilege for us to have this healing gospel because there's an intimacy about this parable, this story. So often in the scriptures we'll hear about the rich young man or the woman at the well or the man born blind. But today we have an intimacy that is really so personal and so enriching. We have a name, Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus. Sometimes we can get the idea that God is so big and there's so many of us that, how does God remember me? And we forget that God has called each one of us by name. That God has that intimacy with us, just like this healing incident was Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus. And God's calling each one of us by our names, as children of God. But I spoke last week and wrote to you this week in the letter about the divine touches that we have with God. That's what the gift of this parish community is for all of us, is through our sacramental life. We get that assurance of that divine touch, that divine call, that divine intimacy. Sometimes we just think we're just one of the crowd, kind of like we got a number. And we forget about the intimacy that God has for each of us, and also the intimacy that we each experience as being members of this parish of St. Joseph's and Bradley, and how this particular parish is the one that has nourished and protected and served and helped so many people as they experience that divine relationship with our God. And that's what we want to do on this commitment weekend, is to look at that and to be aware of that and cognizant of how many people this parish community has nourished and touched, and how it continues to form and shape our lives. That's why at each of the masses this weekend we're asking a parishioner to come and share their faith story of how belonging to this community has been blessing for them and how they have been nourished. And at this Mass we have Melissa Marcotte, who is going to share with us what St. Joseph's has meant in her journey with the Lord.
On September 27, 1967, my parents, Ed and Marilyn Berg, carried me through the doors of St. Joseph's Church to have me baptized. They had chosen my sister Cheryl and my brother Dave to be my godparents. When Father McDermott poured the water over my head and made the sign of cross and oil on my forehead, I became a member of the Catholic faith. And so also began my lifelong connection to St. Joseph's Church. My parents and grandparents were faithful people. I credit my faith life to the solid foundation they laid for our family. Church attendance wasn't optional. It wasn't ever argued or even debated. Our faith and our church were simply part of who we were. Typically, we sat on the left side of the church, about halfway between the front and the back. I always find it interesting how we have our comfortable spot here, just like we have a favorite chair or space at home. I have always felt comfortable, welcomed, and included in this holy place. I eagerly attended 8 years of school in the building next door. I received the sacraments of reconciliation, communion, and confirmation in this church. I have special memories of each of those events, full of God's grace and surrounded by my family, as well as my church family. To this day, I'm grateful for so many things about my church home. Sitting in this church, whether with my grandma, my parents, or my school class, these walls, with their beautiful marble and stained glass windows, helped build me into the faithful person I am today. I certainly don't always do it right, but in some way they help hold me accountable for my choices, decisions, and actions. Because of that faith foundation, when my future husband and I decided to get married, this was the only place the wedding could have been. We stood before the Lord in this place and vowed to take God along with us in our marriage. We promised to pass that faith on to our own children, just like our parents and their parents had done. Shortly after the births of our 3 sons, each one was brought into this very structure to be baptized and to begin their faith journey. The commitment continued. So what does any of this have to do with you? Well, I'm quite sure many of you have some of the same or similar memories of St. Joe's. There's something very special about this place. I do, however, often worry about the future of my beloved church. I so want it to be here for future generations. I think of how amazing it would be to sit in these pews with my own grandchildren someday. This faith community has become a vital and fundamental part of my life. It has been here in times of great joy, like those memories I just shared. But this community has also surrounded me with love and support in the most sorrowful and difficult times of my life. When I was 20 years old and my father died suddenly at 56, the priests, sisters, friends, and strangers from St. Joe's lifted us from our grief with their comfort, kindness, and prayers. When my mom died, this community encircled us once again. Her funeral mass was one of the most beautiful celebrations of life I've ever witnessed. And when we received the news that our oldest son, Logan, had a life-threatening disease that would rob him of every simple thing we take for granted, like walking and talking and eating on his own, our God taught us through all of you how precious his life is and how blessed we really are. When I see those words on the back wall, faithful and grateful, I'm compelled to live out those words. Because I'm so grateful for my parish, I want to give back. And because God is so faithful, he continually nourishes and feeds me spiritually here. I have a necklace on today that reads, "Love the life you live." I pray that I do that, but it's hard. I strive to live in the fulfillment and peace that God provides. I pray that I can look back on my life and say I made choices that moved me in that direction. One way that's had an acute impact on that desire has been our commitment to financially support our parish. It's so easy not to. We forget our envelope, we're sick, we go to another church, we're on vacation, or we doubt our offering will make just any difference. Our failed good intentions add up and become forgotten. So several years ago, we decided to sign up for the automatic withdrawal option for our tithing. Truthfully, I didn't really like the idea. What if the checkbook was short? What if we needed the money for something else? What if it was the difference between some other monetary desire we had? What if? What if? But the Lord led our prayer about this to, what if we didn't? We hear entirely too often about the priest shortage, that our parishes are consolidating, dropping mass times, or even closing their doors. It's all too close to home. Frankly, I don't want to be wondering what more I could have done while signing a petition for the diocese to keep these doors open one day. I want to see our parish continue to thrive. I want to read a bulletin full of faith-filled events my family can participate in. I want to visit the website and see all the pictures of the ministries going on here. Ministries that make Christ so alive in our parish, community, and even the world. I'm so very thankful. The bottom line for me is that I'm faithful to St. Joe's because God has been faithful to me through my experiences here. I'm grateful to my parents and other past generations who worked so hard and sacrificed so much so you and I can worship and grow in faith and community with each other here. Yes, my financial gift is a sacrifice, but looking back on our past and looking forward to the future, it's a sacrifice that I faithfully and gratefully make. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. In our gospel, there was a pivotal point where Jesus stopped and said, "Call him here." And in this Commitment Sunday, there's a pivotal point where we stop and say, how is God calling us today? In the pews in front of you, the book racks, is the Faithful and Grateful envelopes. If you haven't brought the one that was mailed to you, I'd ask that you take one of those and that you fill it out at this time. Fill it out with what you can do to continue to support this parish community, to continue to ensure that this parish community will be the strong and vibrant and healthy and holy place for people in the generations to come after us. That we will be able to continue to thank God for the generosity and the love that God has shared for us. I know that all of us are generous people and that we give to lots and lots of different things. But today is our intimacy with this parish community. How do we give to St. Joseph's? How do we give so that this community can continue to be vibrant and to be a place of nourishment for years to come? We'll take some time and allow you to fill out your envelopes. When you're finished, you can bring them up here. And if anybody is not able to come forward, if you would just hold your envelope up, and somebody from the hospitality ministry will come and get it for you and bring it forward. Let's take some time for us to stop in this pivotal time and respond to our God.